Now, this is an interesting clip, and I did a video that touched on this somewhat the other day. In this particular clip, Roland and his guests are going to talk about white people and how they act against their own interests. And that's true. So I'm going to let the clip play, comment at the end, and then you make your own call on whether this clip really does point out the accuracy of the poor white vote never working for itself.
All right, folks, with the past violence at Trump rallies and the Republicans Party constantly fighting, what you constantly hear is that Donald Trump is attracting these angry voters. They're really upset with what's going on. Many of them poor whites. He's doing extremely well when it comes to voters who don't have college degrees, the individuals who graduated from high school. But the real question is, what's going on with these white Republican voters? So I saw this story about one of our guests who's coming up next. It was an interesting story. Shut it on my iPad. It says, I know why poor whites chant Trump, Trump, Trump. The author of this piece, and first of all, it's in STIR Journal. That's STIR journal.com. And she is Jonna Ivan. She is the author and founder of this site. She joined us via Skype from Vancouver, Washington, and also joining us for this conversation is my buddy, founder of Sojourners, Reverend Jim Wallis. He's the author of the book, America's Original Sin, Racism, White Privilege, and the Bridge to a New America. And of course, we're still joined by Ralph Chittum's, Amos DeWeaver, as well as Cleo Monago. John, I want to start with you because the reason this caught my eye is that former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. in his book, A More Perfect Union, talked about the same thing you talked about, and that is there's this historical connection between rich whites in America talking to poor whites saying we're in the same boat. So for our audience, let's give them the thesis of your piece.
Well, yes, I wrote the piece to kind of go back and say, why do these poor white people continuously support wealthy people when they don't have their best interests at heart? And as I kind of started looking into it, I just kept going back further and further and further in history, and eventually sort of found this connection between wealthy whites planting this wedge between indentured servants and African slaves. And by doing that, and by giving sort of freed whites or indentured servants a little, like a tiny little feeling that they were better, they kind of put this wedge in between people who were kind of working side by side at times. And that wedge has continued to just get bigger and bigger and deeper and wider. And it's always coming up. It's always rearing its ugly head. And when you couple that with fear, because I couldn't figure out when I was looking and doing the research, and there's different numbers, but I'll go with the number that I found, which was 4% of the population were actually wealthy plantation owners who owned slaves. And I kept thinking, well, how did this 4% get the other 96% to fight in a civil war for something that wasn't even going to benefit them? And that's when I started to come across these speeches that were given by politicians that were basically feeding this fear. And what they kept saying over and over again is, if these African slaves are freed, they're coming for you.
Jim Wallis, John, hold on a second. Jim Wallis, I want to go to you because what's interesting about this is, and I talked to Lee Saunders, labor leader on the show, and he said even many whites in labor unions are supporting Republican candidates who literally are advocating policies that totally go against their own economic interests. And you're hearing the exact same thing, and I'm just trying to figure out, these are folks who couldn't even walk into a Trump hotel.
I read your article. It's a great piece. And so white supremacy is an ideology that's a lie. And that lie even works against white people, poor white people, deliberately so. She talks about you take cheap labor and free labor and try and pit them against each other. They've always done that. But when cheap labor and free labor, now cheap labor for everybody, when that gets together against the people who are making everybody poor, that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of a real popular movement that would really aim at who's making the rich richer and the poor poorer and the middle class more fragile every single year. That's the movement they're afraid of. So they want to divide people against each other, divide working class white people against black people. That's what's very historic. It's always been done that way. Lies, theologically, lies hurt everybody. And
okay, and that's, in my opinion, what the Bernie Sanders campaign is all about. He is pointing out that the rich people are screwing everybody else, and their control of the media and the political process absolutely works to pit us against each other. And we need to wake up, open our eyes, realize what the hell is going on, and do what we need to do to take our power back.
this lie of white supremacy hurts even poor white people.
Ralph, the reason I want to go to you is because, again, this is not to me about pushing a Democratic focus or Republican. But if I'm a poor, if I'm white and working class or poor, and I'm in a union or I'm supporting larger wage, I want a larger wage, and I'm voting for a party that routinely fights labor unions, or if in some cases I'm in a labor union. This to me is where Howard Dean was right in 2004 when he said the party used God-gazing guns targeting poor whites and got them totally thrown off their own economic situation as well as education. And now they're saying, well, Trump is our guy because the party's been lying to us. And I'm going, no, actually, you've been lying to yourself.
But also the question also needs to be asked then why are poor blacks always voting for rich white Democrats who implement policies that have decimated America's inner cities? See, the argument that we're having here isn't about Republicans and Democrats. That's where we're getting it wrong. The argument we're having here should be an economic argument regarding why are the rich and the powerful coalescing in a way to go against poor people.
No, here's the deal. I can have that conversation, but I'm specifically talking about poor white folks. See, I mean, I'll have the poor black folks conversation.
But I think that's the red herring.
No. But
the argument is the economic argument.
But there's something here, Cleo, about poor whites who are backing Donald Trump, and you're going, show me where he actually is concerned about you.
Well, Reverend Wallace kind of referenced it, and I have to preface my comments again with that this is not logical. And you're wondering why these people are not being logical. You know, support somebody who supports you and who's going to do something that's going to benefit you. No, the investment is in whiteness. Yeah. And this country makes white people feel artificially superior and black people feel artificially inferior, which is why what he raises is relevant in terms of Hillary Clinton, because that's some praising white folk stuff too. And the central issue here is the praising of white people based on the myth of white supremacy. So these white people look at black people as a threat. They look at black people as an enemy, or black people who could do, as somebody who can do something to them. Here comes Donald Trump being bold and putting down other people and talking like a racist, and they're going, regardless that he's rich and I can never even walk into his hotel, I never even use his bathroom, he's white, he's speaking against these other people, he's my savior. That's not logical. This is not a logical issue. It's emotional.
It's really a lot that goes into this, because if you look really at the historical background of the linking of the two, or the delinking of the two, there was a lot of sort of poor whites who made their living off of oppressing blacks. For example, so who were the overseers? Who were the people who caught the escaped slaves?
That's true.
They were poor whites. So they were economically lynched into the system that was built on oppressing black people. And then beyond that, you're exactly right, this investment in whiteness, right? This investment in whiteness is key, because what it does is it allows you to buy into this lie of the American dream. White people can more easily say, well, I might not be Donald Trump today, But tomorrow, maybe, I could be Donald Trump. You know, I can be there. There's nothing stopping me. Whereas I believe that people of color understand that it's a little bit more complicated than that. And so even if you are oppressed as a white person in terms of your poverty status, you aspire to this bootstraps mythology, and you believe that because of your whiteness and because of your investment in whiteness, that there is nothing there to keep you from ultimately attaining
But
the goal.
important part of Trump's rhetoric is he's not PC. That's an important part of his rhetoric.
Yeah.
Because, and I heard this, Jonna, as well as Jim, I've heard white voters say, well, he's saying stuff I always wanted to say, so now I can say it. And John, I want to go to you first, and Jim. What bothers me is, and I was tweeting this to Joe Scarborough, to Mika, to Mike Barnacle, and to other folks, and people keep just running by and passing by when they mention these angry white male voters and poor whites. I'm like, no. You need to be having a real discussion as to why they are angry, and also challenging them, saying maybe you're part of the problem because you've been voting against your own economic interests, John.
Exactly. Well, and that was the thing, and that's what sort of started me writing in this essay was when I saw the poll that said that 85% of Trump supporters felt that they had no say in what government does. Now, in a lot of ways you can say, okay, well, welcome to the party, because people of color, minorities, a lot of people have been feeling this way, and now you're sort of getting poor whites are kind of finally feeling that as well, and they are angry and they're frustrated, and I think more than anything scared. It's scary being poor, but they do sort of have this ideal, this kind of American dream, whereas even though everybody's living one paycheck away from being homeless or poverty, they still feel like they're one great idea or one lucky stroke away from being, say, like a Donald Trump. And what Donald Trump is doing, which is historically what's been done by the wealthy elite, is point that anger, that frustration, and that fear off them, right? They're saying, don't look at us. We're not the problem. I'm not the one who's keeping. It's those people. And those people have taken many forms. You know, we've been, be afraid of the communists, be afraid of the Muslims, be afraid of the immigrants. The immigrants are coming to take something from you. The gays and lesbians are coming to take something from you. There's always this enemy out there that the poor whites are being told is coming to take something from you.
Jim?
So why are working class whites angry? Because they're being marginalized and their wages are going down. They're losing homes and jobs, and their kids are being sent to wars that are stupid wars. But then Trump he said, I will take on the mantle of anger. That's what he said.
Right.
And then I will turn you against the others, just as she's saying. It's always, so be mad at immigrants, they're taking your jobs, and blacks and Muslims and all the rest. The anger is understandable. Where you direct the anger becomes, the issue. Two kinds of populism in America. One, the blames the other blames the right people to blame. So how do you change this kind of populism that is a racial blaming populism? Because they were taught, you're white, so you'll be okay. We're promising you, you're still white, still white, so you're going to be okay, and they're not. And they say, wait a minute, I was supposed to be okay and I'm not, so I'm mad.
I gotta go to break. First of all, John Ivan, I appreciate it, folks. Go to Stir Journal.
So there you have it. Bottom line is, you got to vote in your own self-interest, and then when you vote against your own self-interest, and you vote to support these guys that basically are selling fear and hate, you're never going to win. I've said it before. I'll say it again. We're stronger when we pull together rather than when we work against each other. And I understand that it's only human nature to want to feel that you're better than everyone else, both individually and as a group. But sometimes that just is not true. And even when it is true, you need to work with those that you are better than, because as they come up, so do you.